Hello and welcome to a presentation on how to use your math class. This is typically what your teacher would go over with you the first week of school, but since we have such a unique learning environment, I'll be going over with you here. This is a four-part series. Part one, we're going to go over how to use and navigate your Canvas math class. Part two is going to go over how to be successful in this learning environment and how to use Pearson's SuccessNet to facilitate that. Part three is going to go over Math Excel for School, how we integrate that, and how we take notes. Part four is a sample lesson to take you through a typical day. Let's go ahead and get started with the Canvas. So in this course, you're using Canvas, and that's how we interface and interact together. So I'm going to show you how you use your home page, what it's like, how you get through your introduction and how that unlocks the rest of the course, the typical cycle for learning, and how to use your side toggles. You can get to Canvas two different ways. I personally like to go over to the logins on springcharterschool.org, and then I'll go down to Canvas and get through it that way. Or you can bookmark it up at your top, which I usually do. And here's my username and password. You get this from your ES, and then you log in. The first thing that comes up is all of your recent activity. So it'll tell you all the announcements. Please read those once they come up. They give you anything that we think you need to know right away. Your assignments that are coming up or assignments that have been graded, and then the discussions you need to do. This will be for all of your courses, not just your math course, all of your Canvas courses. If you hover on calendar and click on that, there's not a lot in there because since we leave this open, a very open environment, we don't have due dates. Your teacher or your ES or your parent will have due dates for you and they'll discuss those with you. But in the course itself, it doesn't have due dates, so the calendar doesn't tell you when things are due. Within the course, it'll tell you when things are due. So your grades will take you straight to what's been graded in the class already. And then obviously if you hover over this, you go to your courses. We'll just use, all the courses are really set up exactly the same with different material, of course, but we're going to use the Math 2 to show off how wonderful the class is. So your course isn't going to look like this when you get in here. This actually is a teacher view. So let me go ahead and take you into the student view so you can see what you look like. Now your course is going to look exactly like this with one exception. I'm recording this before school has started, so the courses haven't been published yet for you guys to get into. So that's why it's got this little box. But everything else will look the same. This will just be shifted up. You'll have the little toggles over at the side, home, announcements, modules, and grades, and then we have the course itself. Notice that the header of the course matches your book. If your book is not this yellow hornet thing, then you are in the wrong class. You either have the wrong book or the wrong class, and you got to work with your ES or your teacher to figure this one out. At the very top of the course, I got some big buttons. They take you to important information, and we'll go over that in a second. Then we have your weekly work. So week 1, you click here and it gives you week 1 work, week 2 work, week 3 work, and so on and so forth. Here's your 2 main programs that you're going to be using within the class, your milestone study guides and your 3 assignments, and then my contact information with my email address and my phone number. Before you have access to say week 2, 3, 4, any of these weeks courses, and they do go down, so 4, 5, and then pop back up with 6, you have to complete the required introduction. This is the same thing as the work for week 1, but even if you join our class in week 10 and have gotten credit for all of the other 10 classes, you still have to complete the required introduction. It unlocks everything else in the class. I haven't completed the required introduction as a student yet, so if I try to get into week 10's work, I get this whole not available thing. That'll happen to you until at the end I'll show you. As we click through the entire introduction, then I'll be able to go ahead and go and get into week 10's worth of work. Now you can get to the required introduction either by clicking week 1 here or by clicking the required introduction here. But let me show you these little buttons real fast. Like I said, here's the two main computer programs that we use, and we'll be going over those in a second. But here's the Cornell note-taking method, which is you can take notes however you want, but this is our preferred note-taking method, and I have a whole bunch of examples and templates and just different rules and tricks of the trade here. It's nice to look through. We have the course documents. The course description's really for ESs, but if you ever want to take a look at it, it's there. The pacing guide has all the documents I use to create your class, so you might want to go through those. It's not as important. These last four are, though. Here's your ICANNs for the class. If you're new to Springs, then ICANNs are really the main things we focus on during this class. So you're going to want to take a look at those. Here's your daily work, which is a breakdown day by day of what you're going to be doing. Here's your assignment sheet, which tells you when everything is due, also how many points it is. And then here's your calendar, which just tells you which days, what you're going over on what day. So it'll tell you like today we're doing fractions, tomorrow we're doing, I don't know, integrated calculus. So these last four you're going to want to print out and keep in your folder or your notebook. You can always staple it to the top of your notebook. The last two buttons, these two right here, are all about the seminars. So at specific dates and times, we meet and discuss things. If you click on here, it's going to prompt you. It's already actually prompted me, but it's going to prompt you for your name. Put in your name. And then once you do that, it'll enter you into this interface. Here we can chat together. I can show you my notes. We can share files. You'll be able to chat with the other participants in class. And I can show you my screen and show you notes. We go over problems. We go over lessons. Lots of fun stuff. You can even raise your hand and say, hey, pay attention to me. So this is our interface. Make sure you use your correct name because that's how I keep track of attendance to give you credit for it. Now say you miss one or there was something we went over and you can't quite remember how we went over it, then you go to the seminar recordings. This is also where a quick link for you to go and find out the time. So for Math 2 this year, it's going to be 11:10 to 12:10 and the dates of when they're going to be. Then the recordings will be down here. And if I've taught the class in the past, you'll have past recordings down here too in case you need to take them early. But this particular class hasn't been taught in the past, so I have no past recordings. But so you'll find your recordings here if for some reason you miss it and you need to come back and do it. I prefer that you're in the class because I really did give you lots of time to interact and go over problems that you in particular need help with. We go over like the milestone study guides. I give you helpful hints and stuff to get through the test better. I also see much better grades at most of the kids that attend these seminars. Okay, so before you can get to any other part of the class, you actually have to do the required introduction. So say your ES has you coming in at week number 10 and you go, okay, I need to do week 10 work. You get this. This says that the class isn't available to you yet. The reason the class isn't available to you yet is because you haven't completed the introduction. No matter where you start the class, you have to do the work for the introduction. Week 1 and the introduction are actually the exact same thing. So it doesn't matter if you do week 1 or do the introduction, they link to the same place. So we'll go in through here. Now this is very typical of what you're going to see in each week. It starts you off with a calendar. The calendar shows you day by day what's required of you, and it'll show you stuff that you have to work on throughout the entire week. If it shows you all the way through, it's not due until that week's up. If it goes on that day, then that really needs to be worked on that day. The research shows that with math, you really need to do it every day. You get a lot more out of doing math 1 hour every day a week, actually, if you even want to take it further. 45 minutes for 7 days actually gives you a lot more than doing even 1 hour every day, but obviously we want to take breaks. But if you try to cram 5 or 8 hours into one day and just do math for that entire time, you will not get through all the work. And on top of that, you won't retain what you need for the next time that you're coming back into the math class. So it is extremely important that you put in that hour a day. Now, if you come down here, there's two different ways to get to your work. You can see it shows you day 2 here, day 2 here, and here's a link that takes you right to what you have to do for that day. Or you could just push next, and that goes to day 2 also. Skipped over day 1 because we have no school that day. This is your portfolio sample. You've got to print this out and turn it into your ES for attendance. It's extremely important. Then we go through, and I start teaching you about the class during this introductory week. So we're going to go through and learn about our math cycle. I broke down all my math classes into a learning cycle. The learning cycle is discover, grow, check, reflect. In discover, that's where we learn whatever we're learning for that day or that couple days for that lesson, basically. You can do it in several different ways, and you'll see options later. Then we need to grow, which is our way of doing our practice. We have to either practice in Math Excel, which is my preferred learning method, or any of the other options you have. Finally, there's a quiz on every section, not every day, but every section. Some sections take 1 day, some sections take 3, depending on how hard the material is. It's a 2-question quiz. It takes 2 to 5 minutes, very quick, and it just tells you if you understood what we did in grow. Now these are interactive, so I can discover, grow, check, realize I didn't know it, go back to discover, or maybe go back to grow, check again. That's why I like Math Excel so much, is that you can do the check as many times as you want, and they're different questions, so they really are a good check. Lastly, we have reflect. We have this piece because research shows that you retain so much more if you just spend 2 minutes saying, what did I learn? And this should be done daily. Even if the lesson lasts 3 weeks, every day you need to go, okay, I need to know what I learned today. That little 2 to 5 minute reflection piece, depending on how much you want to put down, will really save you tons of time in the future. All you're doing is saying, okay, this is what I learned. This was something cool that I think I need to hold on to. These were the equations I had for a day. Just a real reflection about what you did that day. This is the hard parts I had. That helps too. This is how I got through hard parts. That's our basic math learning cycle. As you read through the introduction, it's going to take you through 2 preferred course pathways and how to interact with them. One uses Math Excel. That's the one I like the most. The second uses your book, which someone has to grade. And then the third, which isn't really in here, is that you can create your own with your ES. On the next page, you'll find out ways to get started with Math Excel, which we'll go over later in the video. And then you need to make sure that you click on the Create the Person SuccessNet account, because that's how I get you your account. You'll take a quiz to make sure that you understood what you were doing. It'll take you through how to sign up for the couple different accounts you're going to need, which we'll go over in the next part. You'll have to complete your introductory Moodle week. And this takes you right to that, right to your Moodle. At the end of every week, you're going to have a discussion question. This discussion question might be over what you did that week, might have you interact with other kids, or for week 1, you actually learn about your learning styles and talk about that. So that basically ends every week, is with this discussion questions. So let's go back. If you notice, home is over here on the side toggles, and that'll be the last thing we talk about. Oh, and once you complete that introduction, it'll open up the rest of the course for you. Now, there's announcements, which just takes you to the math announcements for this course. There's modules, and there's grades. Grade takes you right to your grade book, so you know what grade you're doing only in this course. And modules is a quick way to get the entire course. So you'll notice you only have week 1 open here, and that's because the rest, these assignments need to be done before that you're able to get the rest open for you. But it does have up here all the course documents, including that Cornell notes and everything. And it has chapter 1 and 2 for your review if you need those for any chance, since we start in chapter 3 of this test. So anytime you want to skip around modules is a good one for that. So this ends part 1. So let's go and start part 2.